It's time. Guys, I'm here with the mastermind, the architect behind it all, John Danaher. How are you doing, man?
Very well. I'm very happy with the performance of my two students, Garry and Gordon, tonight.
But who are you more impressed with?
It's difficult to say. I do believe that Garry Tonon was at least 50% responsible for the defeat of the very game Simoees, who
I think that's a really important fact to bring in because Yuri, I mean, here's the thing, and this is no disrespect to Gordon, but it was also caused by Gordon, especially in the overtime. He looked like he was going to exhaust and die. I didn't know that he would necessarily tap as much as I thought he might die.
There's a fact that many people may not be aware of, that YURI Simoees actually briefly pulled out of the tournament after the fight with Garry Tonon. He was exhausted, and we were told to prepare Garry to fight Gordon, because YURI Simoees had pulled out. Then he was convinced by, I believe, his coaches to re-enter the tournament, so it didn't end up happening. But the point is that YURI Simoees was exhausted after the fight with Garry.
Wow, that's insane.
I believe if it was a 15-minute or a 20-minute fight, it would have gone the other way.
So there was the possibility there would have been teacher versus student. Did that entertain you in any way, or were you nervous, or where were you? Because we've heard so many people. We've heard, Tom DeBlas say, like, they're going to bring it, they're going to fight. We had Gordon saying over here, hey, guess what? We're going to go for it, but, like, I won't murder him. We have Garry saying I would have killed him. What's your thought on all?
Well, I literally watch those guys go tooth and nail at each other every single day in the gym, 7 days a week, and it can go either way. They're both capable of defeating each other. That's a fascinating question that we're never going to know the true answer to. But I will say that in training, they tap each other at roughly 50-50.
I mean, they're both, we're talking top tier. And when you get to that top tier, that's exactly the training partner you want. You don't want somebody who's going to, not push you and not be able to submit you.
It depends what you're training for. People have a mistaken impression that you should always be training with the toughest guys. It's not true at all. I believe about 80 to 90% of your training should be with people who are significantly lower in skill level than you are. And then as you get into competition mode, then you start training with guys who are your own skill level or better. But I do believe that it's a common misunderstanding that you should always be training people better than yourself. It's very, very hard to develop your technical skills on people that are better than you. All you develop is your defensive skills. But ultimately the point in Jiu-Jitsu is to defeat people, not to become difficult to submit. And so there's this common misunderstanding. People think to be the best, I've got to train with the best. Yes, to some degree. I do believe it's important in your early days in training to feel what quality Jiu-Jitsu feels like. You need to roll with someone good. But as you progress beyond blue belt, I always believe that around 80% of your training should be with people significantly lower in level than yourself, so that you can practice new techniques, you can expand your repertoire. You can't do these things when you're going tooth and nail with someone your own skill level.
I mean, well, thank you for validating, because my terribleness must be helping other people. So now I feel like I'm going to go up to people after rolls and be like, you're welcome.
I'm valuable to you. Yeah.
Of course. Speaking of being valuable, the guys are always talking about you. They always quote you. They're always talking about it. Now, you were telling me off camera, you were saying that if you thought those guys were assholes, you're meeting the real asshole. Is that really the case? Because you seem far nicer than Garry ever has been in his life.
It's true. I'm afraid I'm a very difficult person to get along with.
You don't seem it.
No, my students are saints, believe me. They are saints to put up with my horrible behavior. You're seeing me now, my best behavior. If you see me on a daily basis, I am a difficult, demanding asshole of a person.
Okay, that's fair. And now that I know that, have you ever considered a side project of being a James Bond villain? Because you have the look. You could pull it off.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. There is nothing you can talk to me about that I don't already know.
I would be interested in that offer, yeah. It's a lot more financially lucrative than being a jiu-jitsu instructor.
I would think so.
Yeah. And I probably get more women, too. Yeah.
Because I see that not only do you have the jiu-jitsu skill and acumen, but you have the brains to be able to do it. And that's always what gives James Bond the most problem. Also the voice. Nobody really talks about your voice. It's kind of like you could either be a good guy or you could be a really good bad guy. So I don't really know.
I think I'm more the bad guy. Yeah.
Well, you're not a bad guy.
Students are the saints and I'm the devil.
Well, you don't really seem it. I just don't believe it. I guess I'll have to one day see there. Hail Satan indeed. How dare you, Garry Tonon, yelling out from the sidelines. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you this. What is coming up next for your gym? What are things that we can talk about?
That's a great thing. I just talked to Eddie Bravo, who's talking about EBI 6, which will be, I believe, a featherweight
I think it's EBI 7?
EBI 7, I'm sorry. Long night. EBI 7 will be featherweights. I believe he said July 16th is the time. So Eddie Cummings will be entering that, possibly with a teammate. But certainly Eddie Cummings will be there. In addition, I would like very much for Eddie Cummings to super fight Gio Martinez, who's one of the more talented 10th Planet black belts. We're going to push hard for that as a super fight, hopefully before the EBI event. So those are the two things I'm pushing for Eddie Cummings. I would like very much for Garry Tonon to do a grappling match, a super fight, which has been offered in, I believe, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, against Cowboy Cerrone.
Which is amazing.
Fascinating. Cowboy Cerrone.
How can we make that happen?
I believe there's a lot of interest in the fight. Cowboy Cerrone is actually a very good grappler, by the way. Yeah, he's got an excellent triangle choke. He's very talented, and he's got a great attacking spirit, which I believe would make for an amazing fight with Garry Tonon. And it would brings in that fascinating interface between mixed martial arts and grappling. So are we pushing hard for that confrontation? Gordon Ryan is probably going to do absolutely nothing for the next year and just spend all his money on booze and women. That's my anticipation. So I don't know if we'll ever see him again.
It's so dry. That's what's so wonderful. I mean, I can kind of see the elements.
I'm actually going to have to take away his prize money because I'm afraid he's going to go out and buy crack cocaine.
No.
We're in the south central Los Angeles here.
No. All right. Before we close, I just want to ask you this. You're so good whenever I hear you, and I hear the other guys from your camp do this as well. But when you guys are yelling out instructions from the sidelines, it's always, what is this? How do you address Garry Tonon from the sidelines?
I always use his full name, Garry Tonon or Gordon Ryan.
Right. Garry Tonon, we're going to work on this heel. Garry Tonon, we're going to work to make space. If you were to give some advice to me, now that you've met me and you've seen how I interview, what would that advice be, just based on your knowledge and your expertise?
You've asked a very muddled question.
No, not really. Explain how it's muddled.
You didn't. You went on one topic, which is why I refer to them by their full name, and then you said, "What should I do?"
No, I was giving an example to demonstrate that you do it, so that I could then have the audience understand that. Now I want you to give me some advice based off of that example.
It's your question. Why do I use their full names when I coach them?
Nope, that's the example to give me the opportunity to ask you what would you give as an example to me, based off of how you coach your students on the sidelines. How would you coach me like you coach them?
But I coach you for what? A tournament?
I'm just saying, coaching like an instructional.
He runs a comedy show. Somehow he got this job. He thinks he's funny. So what he's trying to do is get you to say something witty about like how terrible he is as a comedian, and coaching advice using his name, Rafa Sparza. So like Rafa Sparza.
So in other words, I would have the liberty of looking at him as he flounders around on the mat and say, "What's your name?"
My name's Rafa Sparza.
But like, Raf, you suck. Your jiu-jitsu is contemptible, and I'm embarrassed to be in your corner. I could say things like that. Your comedy is only marginally better than your jiu-jitsu. You haven't made me laugh once.
That's not true. We have it on tape. But here's the thing. I'm so impressed by that. We're going to run that. That's going to be on a t-shirt.
Excellent.
I appreciate that so much. And you know what? You're, again, I still don't see the bad guy in you, but I'll take you at your word.
Come to a Monday afternoon class and tell me if I'm not a bad guy.
I will do that the next time I am out your guys' way. Thank you so much for your time. I very much appreciate it.